So you watch a video about a habit that's gonna change your life, journaling or cold showers. So you try it and you last a couple days, but then you stop. And the worst part is what happens next. You assume that something must be wrong with you, but there isn't. You're just building habits the wrong way. Because almost everybody starts with the same question: what habits should I build? It sounds logical, but it's actually the wrong first question. The real first question is, what life am I trying to build? What is my dream life? Because habits are not the destination, they're just tools that we use to build the life that we want. And if you pick tools before you know what you're building, you end up with a whole bunch of habits that look productive, but don't actually move your life forward. Hi, my name is Ashley Pierre, and I'm the Director of Research at the Global Institute for Behavioral Sciences. I'm also the author of the book Habit Theory, and one of the core pillars that we talk about in habit theory is not just building random habits, but starting first with your vision. And then once we know what our vision is, then we're actually able to break down our vision into habits, and then we build those habits through different levels. The framework that I'm about to teach you actually allows you to build a life of intention, not just randomly building habits because somebody said that they're cool, but actually designing your life and the behaviors that you need to consistently do to build it. So we first need to get started with our vision. Now, the vision for your life is actually made up of 3 different parts. So the first part is actually your dream life. And you want to actually write all this down in a document I call the master doc. Just open up a Google Doc or a piece of paper. And so you want to write down, what do you actually want your life to look like? What kind of work do you do? What kind of health do you have? What kind of relationships do you have? It's important to get as crystal clear as possible because it's going to help you when you're actually figuring out all the habits and the behaviors that you need to consistently do to build this life. The second part of our vision is actually our dream day. So our dream day is actually getting crystal clear on what the day-to-day looks like. So identifying the actions that you want to be taking. What time do you wake up? How much are you working? So again, write all this information in your master doc. And then the third part of our vision is actually the dream self. So the dream self actually defines who you are. What are the traits that you have? So when you're defining traits, you want to define them in 2 parts. The trait name and then an actual description of what that looks like. So for example, the trait name can be, I'm outgoing, and then the description is, I'm able to approach anybody and start up a conversation with them. So you want to define a whole bunch of traits that would make up this dream version of yourself. And not only defining your traits, but also, what standards do you live by? What beliefs do you have? What things do you no longer negotiate with? What values do you have? So this is actually your vision. What's in your dream life? What do you have? What do you do? And who are you? Now that you're crystal clear on your vision, we're actually able to turn that into the habits that you would need to have installed into your life to actually create that life. Because again, your life is created by the actions that you repeatedly do. So we're going to create a long list of habits, and we're going to call this list our habit backlog. Now, I don't want you to get overwhelmed to think that you're going to need to install all of these at once. There's a system in habit theory that I talk about that we're going to use to actually install each of these in a systematic way. So to create our habit backlog, it's really simple. All we do is we take a look at our vision and we define, okay, if I wanted this in my life, what behaviors would I need to be doing? What actions would I need to be taking every single day to create it? And we just write a long list of all those actions or all those behaviors. And if you're having trouble with this, you can also copy your master doc, put it into ChatGPT and say, this is the vision for my dream life. What habits and actions would I need to repeatedly do every single day to build this life? And it's going to give you a habit backlog. Now that we have our vision and our habits, it's time to talk about levels. So when a lot of people try to build habits, they go about it the wrong way. They try to build habits at a level 10 when they should really be starting at a level 1. So a level refers to the difficulty of the current habit. So let's just say you're trying to build a reading habit. Level 1 might be reading 5 minutes a day, and level 10 might be reading, an hour a day, right? So it just refers to the difficulty. So you want to make sure that each habit is a minimum viable habit. It basically means a version of the habit that you'd be able to do even on your worst days. And you want to start every single habit at its minimum viable level. And when you're doing this, your ego is going to push back. Your ego is going to want to say, no, you need to make it more difficult. But when you've tried to build habits in the past, you didn't stick with it. Why? Because you started off too hard. And so it's very, very important that we start behaviors as minimum viable as possible. This increases the chance that we stick to it. And again, this is not where we're going to stay with the behavior. We're going to increase it through levels, right? So now we have each of our habits in our habit backlog at their minimum viable level. The next step is to pick the keystone habit. So a keystone habit basically means that a habit is high leverage. So it affects multiple areas of your life. Now it's important when we are installing these habits, we're not going to install, all 20 habits at the same time. We're just going to pick a couple. I recommend 1 to 3 habits at the start to install at their minimum viable level. Again, like I said, we're going to have a system for adding new habits and progressively overloading our current habits. But at the start, just picking 1 to 3 habits, and you specifically want to pick keystone habits as the first 1 to 3 habits. You want to basically star all of the keystone habits. And if you don't know how to tell if a habit is keystone or not, then I would just recommend copying your habit backlog into ChatGPT and saying, pick out every single habit on this list that is a keystone habit, and it'll be able to tell you. Now, there are 3 types of habits that you can have. There are active habits, there are maintenance habits, and then there are dormant habits. So active habits are habits that you're currently installing. Maintenance habits are habits that you had installed in the past and now you're just maintaining them. And then dormant habits are habits on your habit backlog that you haven't gotten yet to installing. In the book, I talk about how you should only ever have a maximum of 5 active habits at a time, because it's just going to be too much pressure for your nervous system. And I told you guys only to pick 1 to 3 at the start, because we're not trying to change our whole life in 30 days. A lot of people online will make videos like how to become unrecognizable in 30 days and stuff like that, but you've tried it and it doesn't work because it goes against fundamentals of behavior change. We're not trying to change our whole life all at once. We're progressively making changes and progressively building our dream life through systems. So a maximum of 5 active habits at a time. You're picking 1 to 3. Basically, you're going to pick 1 to 3, they're going to be inactive, and then the rest of the habits in your habit backlog are going to be dormant. Habits you're going to build in the future, there's no guilt. So guys, now you have your 1 to 3 active habits at their minimum viable level. You have a list of other habits that you're going to build in the future that are going to build your dream life. Now, the next question is, how do we track habits? Because you don't want to do it on a habit tracking app on your phone. And also, like I said before, there's different levels to habits. All of our habits are at their minimum viable level. How do we know when to increase the level? And also, how do we know when to add new habits from, our habit backlog into our active habits? Well, that's what the next video is going to talk about. It's going to show you the step-by-step system to actually track your habits and progressive overload. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and you can get Habit 3 for free. The link is in the description. Thanks for watching.